If you've ever had a senior ask, "Do I still have to come to school?" while a teacher is asking something about final grades because she's realized or he's realized that a couple of students have Fs and it's almost the end of the year, and someone emails you about summer school enrollment, all in the same hour? Welcome to the end of the year in a secondary building. This isn't just busy. This is pressure. And if you don't have systems in place, that pressure turns into chaos fast. Welcome back to the Empowered Educator Show. I'm your host, Dr. Mel, and this is where we help new leaders move from surviving to leading with clarity, confidence, and strong systems. In episode 251, which was titled End of the Year Systems for Elementary Principals, How to Finish Strong Without the Chaos, I was speaking specifically to elementary leaders. But today, I'm going to be talking about the end of the year through the lens of middle and high school leadership. Because let's be honest, this isn't field day and class parties like in elementary. Secondary end of the year is high stakes, high pressure, and highly visible. This is final exams, graduation requirements, credit recovery, behavior shifts, staff burnout. Yes, it's a real thing in high school too. It's testing, ACT, SAT, ABC, LMNOP, all of the letters and acronyms. Grades matter more. Credits matter more. Graduation, it could be on the line for some of your students. And every decision that you make right now, it has real consequences for your students. These people are adults almost, and some of them are leaving your building for the last time, and they won't be back. So you can't affect anything after they leave your building. So you have to make sure that you're doing it before they do. So today, I'm going to walk you through how to lead the end of the year with intention. And of course, I'm going to anchor it in those three systems of leader, logistics, and learning. Let's talk about leader systems first. This is where I want you locked in because in secondary schools, your building mirrors your pressure. If you're reactive, your staff is going to feel it. If you're unclear, your staff is going to know it. If you're overwhelmed, your staff and students are going to feel it and it's going to multiply. And here's what research tells us. About 85% of principals report significant job-related stress. Some reports show that high school principal burnout is as high as 52%. Guys, that's over half of our high school principals being burned out. And most principals fall into that high stress, even when they're coping well. So the translation, stress isn't the exception in your role. It's the environment. So your job isn't to eliminate pressure. It's to regulate it for your building. Because at the end of the year, your students are going to push those boundaries, especially your upper academy, because, well, some of them have already checked out. Your staff energy is going to drop. Seniors, they've mentally checked out a couple weeks ago. They have senioritis, and you know that's a real thing. Even your best seniors, the ones that never give you problems, can sometimes check out. Leaders, they're done. They are ready to become adults and move into adult life. It's the last few weeks of school. They've got things that they're excited about, senior trips, parties, graduation, all of those things. Those are what are taking up the real estate in their head, not those little things. They're not necessarily doing it intentionally, but it happens. And as much as I love my middle school students, they are some of my favorite people on earth, they can also try your patience more than anyone. They are hormonal. They are kids trying to be adults, at least your 8th grade is. Your 8th graders, they are the big men and women on campus right now because they are the oldest group in middle school, and they're getting ready to transition into the high school. Make sure you have that planned well. They need to know all of the things about moving into high school. This is going to be an emotional time for them. They're excited, and they may not ever let you know, but they are also scared. And this is your leader superpower. This is your principal superpower right here with this middle school group. How you respond to them is going to make them feel secure and prepared, or it's going to fuel that anxiety that they're probably already feeling, and then their behaviors are going to ramp up, and you don't want that. They have a lot of emotions, they have big emotions, and they don't always know how to handle those or where to put them, or how to use those emotional superpowers for good. And your parents, they're going to start negotiating some grades for some of their kids because they don't want them in summer school. And if you're not leading with clarity and confidence, things are going to slide very fast. So what does that look like? You're going to communicate early and you're going to communicate often. You're going to communicate so often that people are going to get sick of it. But guess what? It's better to over-communicate and irritate somebody than somebody come at you very mad because they didn't know something. You don't match chaos with chaos. Your staff is watching you to decide, are we okay right now? Is everything under control? Do we have the systems in place? Even if they're not thinking systems, they want to know that they're there. This is one of your most strategic leadership moves, is to have everything under control and everybody be in the know. And leaders, if there's any doubt in their minds, they're going to go to the building leadership team and they're going to continually ask them questions. And not only are they asking questions, but they're probably complaining. And complaining is a culture killer. You don't want that happening because you didn't communicate well enough or you didn't have strong systems in place so everybody knew what was happening and what their role was. They shouldn't have to do that because they should know exactly what's happening in the coming weeks. Your role right now is to be visible. An upper academy hallway is the place where most things happen. Well, maybe the bathroom as well, because there's not always someone monitoring that space. But your hallway is where things can get out of hand very quickly. You need to prep your teachers. You need to stress the importance of being visible. If you can't be in the hallway at all times, and we know you likely can't, my principal is the building of a pre-K through 12. So he is not always available to be in the upper academy hallway because sometimes he has to be in the lower academy hallway or at lunch or somewhere else during a transition time. Be consistent with your expectations, not just with your students, but also with your staff because some of your staff might get a little lax. Support teachers in holding the line. Your teachers are tired and students know it, and they're going to capitalize on that. So here's the shift. You're not just managing behavior. You're protecting your building's standards because one expectation drop, and it's very hard to recover. Moving into logistics systems, because precision matters here. This is your battlefield. Secondary end of the year is not about events, it's about precision. And if you don't build those tight systems, things that actually matter are going to fall through the cracks. And then you're right back to all of that white noise that doesn't move the needle forward, or you're being reactive rather than proactive. Just like with elementary, this starts with weekly leadership team meetings. You need a standing meeting every single week at the same time with your leadership team, so it's on the calendar, everybody knows, and it's non-negotiable. Since your leadership team is made up of classroom teachers, you're going to need to be strategic in how you plan that. You may have to do a before school meeting or an after school meeting if you're not able to have a midday common time to have that meeting with your leadership team. This is where you're going to review all upcoming deadlines, testing, grades, graduation, all of it. You need to assign ownership because you cannot do everything on your own. You need to delegate. Track those deadlines, grades, exams, all of the graduation deadlines. Ensure that nothing slips, guys. Identify those gaps or those risks early. It's kind of late right now in the year, but you can add this to your protocol and be on top of it next year so you don't have students who are missing credits at the end of April, and then you're trying to scramble to figure out what to do. Because in a secondary setting, missed details, they don't just cause stress. They impact transcripts, credits, and possibly graduation status. As the building leader, you need to be on top of grades for seniors especially, but for all of your students. So you need to be logging into your student management system on a weekly basis and keeping up with that so you can justify anything to parents that need to be justified. Or you can be, again, proactive rather than reactive when you need to make a plan for one of your high school students who might not pass a class. Middle school, it's not quite as detrimental because they can still move on to the next grade level. But it is still very important. What you don't want to do is not set them up for success moving into high school. You also want to make sure that you are having conversations with the students. They have to have accountability. They have to take responsibility for their actions. They always need to be involved in these conversations. Someone is going to assume that grades are done. Someone assumes that seniors are cleared. Someone assumes that testing logistics are handled. And those assumptions are going to wreck the end of your year if it becomes chaotic and things fall through the cracks. There is an old poem that used to float around. It's very old. I don't know where it comes from, but I'm going to read it to you real quick. I found it on the internet. I'm going to date myself here just a little bit. This is a poem that I heard for the first time when I was in elementary school back in the 80s. So it's been around for a very, very long time. This is a story about 4 people named Everybody, Somebody, Anybody, and Nobody. There was an important job to be done, and everybody was sure that somebody would do it. Anybody could have done it, but nobody did it. Somebody got angry about that because it was everybody's job. Everybody thought anybody could do it, but nobody realized that everybody wouldn't do it. It ended up that everybody blamed somebody and nobody did what anybody could have. In the end, what it's saying is that anybody could have done the job, but nobody took responsibility for the specific task, so it didn't get completed. Not a good way to end the story. For your final exams and any state testing or norm testing that you might have, lock in those schedules early. Create that protocol. Inside that protocol, you're going to create a clear building-wide schedule. I cannot stress enough, leaders, how important that it is that you communicate with your students and their parents clearly and often. Set expectations for attendance. Communicate policies for makeups. Because in secondary schools, one missed test it's a major issue. It can be the deciding factor on whether a student gets that credit or not, because they may or may not pass that class. And leaders, if you have new staff and this is their first year of being in a high school or a secondary setting, make sure that they understand the protocol and the schedule. And make sure that your staff are aligned. This is not the time for everyone to be doing their own thing or going rogue. And of course, graduation, that's high stakes, so you don't want any surprises. This is your biggest event, and it has zero room for error. This is where your systems are either going to shine or you're going to expose some gaps. You need a real-time graduation tracker, credit checks, multiple rounds of credit checks with multiple people. You're going to want clear communication with your counselors, your students, and your families. Because like I said, nothing is going to hit harder or be worse than a last-minute credit issue the week of graduation, and then you try to figure out what you need to do. And you want to take the same amount of care if you host an 8th grade promotion, because these guys are going from middle school to high school or junior high to high school. You want them to feel just as important as anyone else being promoted to the next grade level. They're not leaving, but they are excited about being promoted, and they deserve just as much care and attention to their promotion ceremony as the high school seniors get for their graduation. It's very important that you set firm submission deadlines for all grades. And you might want to provide some intervention opportunities. That's up to you. I have mixed feelings about that. Everyone does. If you don't do your work when you're supposed to and you don't do the work that was assigned, it's really hard to want to give you opportunities to have more work if you didn't complete the work that you were given. But it's about mastery, guys. So if you can provide those opportunities, then go for it. There is always a last-minute push to save, and I'm doing air quotes, certain students. Your system determines if that's proactive or panic, because the question you don't want in the end is, what, if anything, can we do now, especially for a senior? And while we're talking about grades and possible failure of a course, we're going to be thinking about summer school and credit recovery, because this is huge at the secondary level. You need to identify those students early. And you're going to have to staff things out intentionally, because you can't have certain staff teaching certain things if they're not qualified to do so. Communicate things early. Communicate with your parents early. Communicate with the student early and clearly. This is not cleanup. This is a continuation of your learning system. And you know, at the end of the year, behavior spikes. It just does. It's warmer outside. People are feeling their oats, as we say in the country. And research shows secondary principals deal with increased student-related stressors, especially discipline and behavior issues. So tighten those expectations, stay consistent, support your teachers, support your APs and your deans if you have them. If you're the one-man show, you might find a lead teacher to help you with that. Because if discipline slips, everything unravels. And then you're going to want to plan that end of year closeout, device collection, locker cleanout, staff checkout procedures, all of those things that need to be in a protocol or a checklist. Set systems and timelines now, or you're going to be chasing things later. You do not want to have to go find a missing Chromebook that someone took with them over the summer, and they may not even be coming back to your school. And this is not a job that is specific to you to complete. This is something that you can delegate, because you probably already have someone who's doing this. You just need to make sure that you, as a first or second year building leader, know what that looks like. There are so many things that I was not able to talk about today. There are so many different pieces to your logistics at the end of the school year. Make sure that you're aware of all of those, especially if you're new to the district. I'm new as a superintendent, and there are things that are still popping up on me that I didn't know was something that we were going to be doing at the end of the year. So let's talk about that last system, learning system. This is where secondary leaders often shift into that just get through it mode. But your secondary students still need strong instruction. They still need clear expectations, and they still need academic closure. Learning is not done because it's almost the end of the year. Students will rise or fall to the expectations that you allow in your building right now. And here's the reality. Secondary schools, they're complex. There are multiple subjects, multiple teachers, multiple expectations. And research highlights that this organizational complexity is a unique stressor for secondary principals. So your role, keep learning visible. Short walkthroughs, targeted feedback, celebrate growth. Because if instruction disappears in May, you're going to feel it in August. Your students came for one full school year's worth of learning, and they deserve one full school year's worth of learning, not 8 months. Let's do a quick reality check. The end of the year in middle or high school can sometimes feel like maybe an airport or a courtroom or even a group project where no one did their part and you're somehow responsible for all of it. Your job leaders, it's to stay steady and calm even when everything else is speeding up and there's more chaos. Elementary leaders manage energy. Secondary leaders, they manage pressure. And pressure requires even stronger systems. You're not reacting to problems. You are building systems that absorb the pressure. That's the difference between reacting all day or leading with intention. So here's your action step. I want you to create a secondary end-of-the-year command center. One tracker that includes graduation checks, final exam schedules, credit recovery lists, key deadlines, staff ownership, all the things, guys. But make it fit your context. Review it weekly with your team. If it's not in the system, it will be a problem. And in secondary, those problems, they have real consequences. Leaders, you don't just close a school year in a secondary building. You're closing chapters in your students' lives. And for your seniors, you're not just closing a chapter, you're helping them be successful in opening the next chapter because this is the last time you get to influence them at all. Your students, their families, and your staff are expecting you to make this final push toward the end of the school year an amazing event. They're expecting communication. They're expecting clarity. They're expecting you to hold the bar high and be the awesome, amazing leader that you were hired to be. So lead it with clarity, lead it with consistency, and most importantly, lead it with those 3 systems because how you finish matters way more than you think. When your systems are strong, you don't just survive the end of the school year, you lead it. Thank you for joining me today. Have an amazing weekend, and remember to go the extra mile to motivate, inspire, lead, and empower. Bye-bye.